Undercover boss exposes heartwarming truth. Waitress with a broken hand reveals incredible life-saving resilience. The clatter of dishes, the sizzle of bacon, and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air at Lil S Diner, a place where everyone knew each other's names. Among the chaos, Sarah, a 32-year-old waitress, darted between tables, her broken hand carefully tucked beneath her apron. Pain surged with each movement, but her smile never faltered. "More coffee, Mr. Thompson?" she chirped, her eyes twinkling with genuine warmth. Regulars loved her. She was a beacon of light in their small Midwestern town. Single mother of two, Sarah poured every ounce of herself into her job. It was more than a paycheck, it was a lifeline. Behind her cheerful facade, however, a storm brewed. Economic downturns threatened the diner's survival. Sarah could sense unease in the chatter around her, could see the worry knitting the brows of her customers as they flipped through bills too tight to loosen. She felt it too, the ticking clock of desperation echoing in her heart. As she refilled a cup of coffee, her youngest, Jake, flashed through her mind. The little guy had been sick lately, and she could feel the tightness in her chest when she thought about the potential medical bills piling up. Just then, a gentle hand grazed her wrist. "You okay, Sarah?" It was Marge, a sweet old lady, concern etched across her face. "You look a bit pale." "Just a little tired, that's all." Sarah chuckled, brushing off the concern. She hated showing weakness. Unbeknownst to Sarah, that very day, the owner of a successful restaurant chain sat quietly in a corner booth, watching. He had come undercover to observe his operations workflow but was quickly captivated by Sarah's resilience. In the midst of the frenetic lunch rush, he saw her spark, the way she connected with customers, making them laugh and forget their troubles, even if just for a moment. It gave him hope on an otherwise stumbling bottom line. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Moments later, a sudden commotion erupted as Jake's health crisis erupted into view when Sarah's phone buzzed with an emergency alert. She glanced quickly at the screen, her heart dropping as she took in the message. Panic surged through her, but she had to keep working. The diner was packed, and people were depending on her. A gasp escaped customers' lips when they saw her wince, attempting to hide the sheer agony on her face as she gripped menus awkwardly with her uninjured hand, but the truth began to unfold. Whispers filled the diner. People noticed. The community leaned in, their concerns visibly reflected in their worried expressions. Suddenly, the laughter faded into silence. Sarah stood exposed, the laughter now tinged with sorrow. The undercover boss felt the weight of a collective gasp reverberating around the room, stirring a conversation about empathy, support, and survival. Would this revelation fracture Sarah's resolve or galvanize her? As the diner clung to her story, they questioned how they could help. The mounting tension, the whispers of support and judgment collided, leaving the heart of the diner and Sarah's very future hanging in a delicate balance. Would she stand unbroken, or was the burden too great to carry alone? She looked around, catching a glimpse of hope wrapped in the concern of familiar faces, each drawing closer. Little did they know, the struggle was just beginning. The diner felt like it had paused mid-breath, all eyes drawn to Sarah, who for once, felt the weight of 1,000 gazes pressing down on her. The coffee pot in her hand trembled slightly, but she fought to keep it steady. What she didn't realize was the sheer strength radiating from her vulnerability. The whispers grew louder, alliances forming silently among patrons who had watched her work tirelessly day in and day out. "Someone should help her," murmured a voice from the back. A tall man with a baseball cap nodded, earning quick agreements. "How can we just sit here?" Marge stepped closer, her delicate hands clasped in front of her. "I know I don't have much, but I can chip in, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, thick with emotion. The cook, Jerry, shouted from the kitchen, "Let us throw a fundraiser. We can get everyone involved." His booming voice cut through the tension like a knife, igniting a wave of determination among the crowd. Sarah's heart twisted. "No, no, that's not necessary," she started, but her voice faded into silence. The community was rallying, and the thought both thrilled and frightened her. They were willing to fight for her when she had been so reluctant to fight for herself. "Just talk to us, Sarah," one of the waitresses chimed in, stepping forward. "We're here for you." Their outpouring of support sent warmth flooding through her veins, battling the anxious chill creeping up her spine. Yet, she felt a fresh wave of anxiety surge. Would this be enough? Would it change anything? She had spent so long trying to convince herself she could do it all alone, and here they were, offering their hands. With the irony hanging heavy in the air, it reminded her how people so often offered support, but accepting it felt daunting, almost impossible. Sarah's broken hand throbbed as she clenched her fist, the raw pain forcing clarity into her thoughts. Jake's health, the rising bills, the uncertainty of the diner's future. Would she let pride strip her of the chance for help when it was so clearly being offered? "Okay," she said softly, her voice barely reaching beyond the edge of the table. Maybe I can use a little help." A huge wave of relief washed over the diner. It was almost palpable, the weight of hope hovered in the air. The boss, still cloaked in anonymity but feeling the authenticity swell within him, could sense the tides shifting. As he watched Sarah face her challenges head-on, he realized he was witnessing the birth of something transformational, not just for her but for the entire diner. "Let us make this work," he thought, feeling a surge of inspiration. With a renewed sense of purpose, he reached for his phone. He had ideas brewing of his own, a way to help Sarah and everyone else who relied on the diner, but just as the spirits began to rise, the door swung open, and an unexpected figure stepped inside. The weight of their presence brought an immediate different energy with it. Sarah's heart raced. She had not anticipated this moment, nor the storm that could follow. Would this new arrival shatter the fragile hope that seemed to envelop the diner, or would it somehow strengthen the community that had just begun to unify? A collective silence fell again, an anticipation hanging thick in the air. Who was this newcomer, and what did their arrival mean for Sarah's already tumultuous world? The man who stepped through the door was tall, dressed in a tailored suit that seemed far too formal for a diner. His clean-cut features and neatly combed hair betrayed an air of authority that immediately shifted the diner's energy. Whispers started again, a ripple of bewilderment darting through the crowd. Sarah's heart hammered against her chest, every beat echoing uncertainty. "Good evening, everyone," the newcomer called out, his voice smooth but commanding, slicing through the heavy silence. "I'm here to meet someone, Sarah." He scanned the room, eyes locking onto hers. From behind the counter, Jerry abruptly halted his chopping, and Marge's hands fell to her sides. All eyes were on Sarah, and she felt more exposed than ever, standing there with the coffee pot trembling in her grasp. Yes," Sarah managed to say, feeling the tremor run through her voice. She could feel the heat rising in her cheeks as her pulse raced. Why was he looking for her? Had something gone wrong, or was it something worse? "I'm here to help," he declared, stepping forward with a warm smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I'm the owner of this diner." The knot in Sarah's stomach tightened. "Owner?" she repeated, disbelief dancing on the edge of her words. She had heard about the owner, but the rumor was that he was rarely seen a ghost in the diner's day-to-day operations. "Yes, I'm here to see how things are going after hearing about your situation. I've been watching from afar and would like to offer my support," he said, looking genuinely concerned. The coffee pot slipped slightly in Sarah's damp grip, but she quickly steadied it. This was a lot to unpack. She could feel the community's collective gaze shifting between her and this suited stranger, curiosity blending with confusion. "Support?" she echoed, her mind racing to process the words. "You mean financially?" "Absolutely," he said. And I have ideas for the diner too. It needs to be a place that can thrive. We can make changes together. As Sarah took a hesitant step closer, swallowed by a mix of hope and disbelief, she thought of the bills piling up, of Jake's frustrating battles with his health, and now, just days away from the fundraiser they were planning. But I don't want anything that would make the diner rely on something temporary, she stammered, a fierce protectiveness surging in her. He nodded, his gaze frank and understanding. I get that. But sometimes, allowing others to help is part of building something stronger, too. You don't have to go this alone. His words hung in the air, as potent as a lifeline tossed into turbulent waters. Just then, laughter bubbled up from the end of the diner as a group of seniors struck up a joking banter over their dessert plates. It was a reminder of what this place meant to them, the heart beating within those walls, keeping the community together. And what happens when I accept your help? Sarah asked, her voice firm. What's the catch? What do you want in return? The owner's smile faded slightly as he met her gaze. No catch. Just a commitment to make this diner a home for everyone again. But I do need your vision. Her breath hitched. Could she really open herself up to this? Allow someone to share the burden she had been carrying for so long? And what would that mean for her and Jake's future? Before she could respond, the front door swung open again, this time revealing a familiar face she hadn't prepared to see. Someone from her past, standing just outside, uncertainty etched on their face. Sarah's heart dropped. What now? She thought, anxiety flooding her senses. Had the walls of her life begun to collapse around her, or was there still time to rebuild? The diner seemed to stretch into silence again as Sarah's gaze fixed on the figure shuffling through the door. There, bathed in the soft, yellow light of the diner, was Emily. Memories crashed over her like waves, long summer days, laughter, and a friendship that had weathered prickly thorns until it had drifted apart. Emily's hair was longer, now loosely framing her face, but that worried brow and the way her fingers fidgeted told Sarah everything she needed to know. Is that really you? Emily's voice was shaky, laced with disbelief. The crowd barely registered her presence, still captivated by the interplay between Sarah and the owner. Sarah's heart raced. How had she come back? After what had happened between them, Sarah had thought their paths would never cross again. What are you doing here? She whispered, hardly able to contain the rush of emotions swirling inside her. I found out you could use some help, Emily replied, glancing at the perfect stranger in the tailored suit. And well, I thought. She swallowed hard, gripping the edge of the doorframe. I thought I could pitch in. Sarah looked back at the owner of the diner, a hint of a question in her eyes. She's someone I used to know. A friend. More than a friend, echoed the owner, a casual observation that felt like both an encouragement and a tension spike. Sarah felt the heat creeping back to her cheeks, remembering the way they once laughed together, shared secrets, and made dreams. Emily stepped forward, hands twisting nervously in front of her. I'm really sorry for leaving like I did. I was struggling. But I heard about everything. The diner, Jake, I want to be here for you. Why now? Sarah asked, the slight warmth in her voice struggling against years of hurt. You just vanished. I had to figure things out, Sarah. Emily met her gaze, sincerity evident in her eyes. It wasn't easy, and I didn't know if I would ever come back. But the truth is, I've missed you. And I'm ready to help. As uncertainty contorted in Sarah's mind, the owner interjected, maybe this is the moment you need. A chance to reunite and rebuild not just the diner, but your friendship too. Filled with frustration and hope, Sarah pressed her lips together. This was all too overwhelming. Could she trust Emily after everything that had happened? Could she navigate this new twist in her life along with the stranger offering to help? But why now? She asked again, her own heart pounding. What changed? A tear slipped down Emily's cheek, and Sarah watched, feeling the weight of the moment. I realized the importance of community and how I want to be a part of it again. I want to help you hold on to what matters. The conversations around them faded as Sarah was left grappling with the tangled web of feelings within. Her past and future collided in the most unexpected way, and it frightened her. As she tried to find her footing in a situation that felt like walking on shifting sand, the door swung open once more, a fresh burst of air entering the diner. Its entrance brought further gasps, another surprise. It was Jake's brother, Mike, his expression a blend of urgency and concern. "Sarah," he called, drawing everyone's attention. "We need to talk. It's about Jake. Something's happened." Panic sent Sarah's heart racing anew. Behind her the owner and Emily faded into the background, their support suddenly feeling less certain as reality slammed against her like a freight train. Every breath felt heavy, and just as she thought the diner couldn't house more chaos, she realized this was the moment where everything could change. What could happen now? She wondered, dread beginning to replace the flicker of hope. The air thickened with tension as Mike rushed forward, his face taut with worry. The chatter in the diner dimmed, replaced by a heavy silence that hung like fog. Sarah's heart raced as she searched Mike's expression, desperate to read the urgency behind his words. "Is Jake okay?" she managed to voice through the thick lump in her throat. Emily shifted closer, her presence both comforting and unsettling. Mike took a deep breath, glancing around the diner as if the walls were listening. "It's complicated. He's in the hospital. He got into an accident." The words spilled out, jagged and harsh. Sarah's breath hitched. The memories of Jake's laughter, his stubborn resilience flooded her mind, pushing her into a spiral of fear. What kind of accident? Is he? The unthinkable loomed over her like a dark cloud, and she struggled to collect her thoughts. "We don't know yet," Mike replied, his voice cracking slightly as he leaned closer. "But you need to come. He's asking for you." The world outside the diner suddenly felt implausibly distant. Sarah felt the familiar dance of panic and hope entwined within her, each heartbeat questioning the reality she was being thrust into. Did Jake really want her there? And if so, after everything, did she have enough strength to face him? Emily stepped forward, her voice soft and steady. "I will go with you. You shouldn't face this alone." "No," Sarah said, shaking her head more vigorously than she intended. "I can't. I just can't." Each breath felt heavier. "I need to be sure that he's okay first. And I don't know how I can face him after abandoning everything. Isn't that the point of friendship?" Emily pressed gently, her eyes a mix of empathy and encouragement. "We make mistakes, but we also find our way back." The tension in the diner felt palpable, as if the whole world waited for her response. Inside, Sarah battled a tempest of emotions. Could she set aside the resentment she felt for Emily's past decisions? Trust seemed impossible, yet her heart longed for the features of familiarity amidst all this chaos. "Let me tell you what I know about Jake," Mike interjected, breaking through her fog. "He's not just your love, he's someone who sees possibility even when the odds are against him. Your presence, whether or not you're sure, matters to him more than you think." The sincerity in his tone struck a chord in Sarah, awakening an ember of hope. A small sliver of courage pierced through her uncertainty. "Okay," she finally said, her voice trembling. "I'll go." "Great," Mike nodded. "I'll drive." They began to move as if in slow motion, the thoughts swirling around her maddening. Emily kept close, but the buzz of energy shifted now, creating space for unspoken complicity between the two women. As they stepped out of the diner, a cool breeze washed over them, grounding Sarah with every breath she took, but the reality of what lay ahead twisted her gut in knots. The drive to the hospital felt like an eternity. Each quarter glanced at Emily sent her heart racing further into turmoil. Was she ready for this meeting? Would it be as freeing as she hoped, or only open old wounds? The fluorescent lights of the hospital loomed ahead like unwelcoming stars in the night sky. Sarah felt her heart pounding, each beat echoing the screams of doubt in her mind. What if Jake couldn't forgive her? What if he didn't want her anymore? What if the rest of their dreams lay shattered along with his well-being? As they entered the building, a nurse greeted them with clipped professionalism, checking IDs and asking questions that made Sarah feel even more exposed. The halls echoed with the cries of urgency, amplifying her anxiety. Room 304, the nurse pointed toward a long corridor. Emily squeezed Sarah's hand lightly, a grounding presence. You can do this. Yet, just as they approached the door, a sudden voice called out from behind them. Sarah. They turned to see a familiar face, one that should have filled her with warmth but instead sent overwhelming dread crashing over her like a tidal wave. It was Jake's mother, Claire, her eyes red-rimmed, searching for answers in Sarah's. Please tell me you know what's going on. Claire's voice was thick with fear, and Sarah felt her breath hitch again. All she could do was shake her head, uncertainty sinking its roots deep into her gut. This wasn't just about her and Jake anymore. It was about facing the frayed ties of love, family, and expectations. As Claire wrapped her arms around her, Sarah felt herself teetering between empathy and self-doubt. Would she be able to give the comfort that everyone around her needed? The poignant reality of their lives hung heavily in the air, the stakes higher than she ever anticipated. How could she summon the strength to face Jake, knowing she might lose everything if he couldn't find the heart to forgive her? And just as unease coiled around her again, another figure appeared at the end of the hall, whose presence would tip the scales of this fragile reunion. Story. Jake's father, Tom, approached with his usual briskness, but when he saw Claire's tear-streaked face, his demeanor faltered. The air thickened further, wrapping around them like a charged blanket, and Sarah felt overwhelmed by the implications of their presence. Where's Jake? Tom asked, his voice steady but laced with urgency. Sarah instinctively stepped back, giving space to the parents who clearly needed each other. Despite being caught in a tidal wave of emotions, she felt an undeniable urge to comfort Claire, to wrap her arms around the woman who looked so lost. Let us find out, Emily urged, nudging Sarah gently. As they turned toward the room, Sarah's thoughts spun wildly. What would she say to Jake? Would he blame her for not being there when he needed her the most? Questions climbed over each other in her mind, drowning out everything else as she silently willed herself to be brave. Stay strong, Emily whispered as they walked, her grip on Sarah's hand both reassuring and grounding. They arrived at the door, and all at once, the world outside vanished. Every sound paled. She could practically hear the heartbeat of the hospital machinery behind the door. Okay, here we go, Emily said, and gently rested her hand on the doorknob. Taking the lead, she pushed the door open, and the scene that unfolded inside made Sarah's heart drop. Jake lay on the bed, bandaged and pale. Monitors beeped steadily, and the fluorescent lights flickered like a bad signal, heightening the surreal atmosphere. Jake, Sarah breathed. His eyes opened slowly, and despite the exhaustion etched on his face, he managed a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Hey, he said, his voice a hoarse whisper. The moment shattered her. Those two syllables held everything: the history, the hurt, and the hope. Her heart thumped loudly in her chest, and she could see the flicker of confusion and something deeper in his gaze. Before she could speak, Claire stepped closer, moving to the edge of Jake's bed. Oh, sweetheart. Her voice broke, and all at once, the dam of worry that had been holding back her tears burst forth. Jake's eyes widened, and he stretched a hand out to his mother, his usually strong grip now frail. Mom, I'm okay, he murmured, but his own voice trembled with lingering pain. The moment felt like forever, a cradle of anguish and love converging. Watching them, Sarah felt herself becoming a bystander to this raw, intimate circle of comfort she so desperately wanted to be a part of. Tom stepped in, his arm around Claire, silently offering strength. Do we know anything yet? Tom asked a question to no one in particular, but Jake shook his head gently. Fighting the urge to turn and flee, Sarah forced herself to step closer. Suddenly, all the struggles of their past faded. All that mattered was the boy lying there, fragile yet resilient, the boy she cared for so much. "Jake," she said, barely above a whisper. He turned his head slowly, a flicker of recognition lighting up his weary features. "You came." For a heartbeat, the air around them ignited with possibility. Just then, a doctor interrupted their moment. "Mr. Morgan, we need to discuss your condition." Before Sarah could process the sudden break, Jake's expression shifted. Anxiety clouded his eyes, but he glanced toward her again, as if acknowledging her silently. And there it was. The delicate thread of connection hung between them, barely holding on, yet pulsating with unspoken words. After the doctor spoke, another tension-filled beat followed, leaving Sarah frozen outside the sphere of Jake's pain and uncertainty. "Will you?" Jake hesitated. "Stay?" The question hung suspended in the air, heavy with implications. Would she have the courage to bear his burdens? Could she forgive herself enough to take that step back into his life? As the weight of the moment pressed down on her, Sarah sensed an impending choice, the start of something, a path diverging before her. "Of course, I will," she answered softly, heart racing. But just as relief washed over her, she heard the door creak open again. And another figure stepped in. This time, the expression on their face sent chills down her spine. Who could it be that would complicate this fragile reunion even more? The figure that walked in was unmistakable: David, Jake's estranged older brother. He hadn't been seen in years, and the sight of him sent a shiver through the room. His rough exterior bore the weight of too many untold stories, and his eyes carried a mix of surprise and something akin to regret. Sarah's stomach twisted. She had heard whispers about David before, about his reckless choices and the rift he had caused within the family. Yet, here he stood, at the intersection of pain and healing, a ghost from the past threatening to overshadow the fragile moment unfolding around Jake. "Jake!" David's voice was low, almost breaking. He rushed forward, fists clenched at his sides, as if he could barely contain the flood of emotions surging within him. "Why are you here?" Jake croaked, his voice thick with a mixture of anger and hurt. He shifted uncomfortably in bed, the beeping monitors a discordant backdrop to their reunion. I heard what happened," David stammered, glancing at their parents, who were frozen in place, caught in a collision of emotions as their family seemed to unravel before them. "I didn't know." His voice trailed off, unable to articulate what he had felt all this time. "Of course you didn't," Jake jabbed, his expression hardening. "You were too busy running away." Claire moved closer to the bed, her motherly instincts kicking in. "Let us stay calm," she said softly, trying to ease the tension coiling in the air. "We're all here for Jake. How can you even show your face here after everything?" Jake spat, the hurt from years past bubbling to the surface. "You chose to leave. You chose to disappear." David's shoulders slumped, guilt washing over him. I know, and I'm sorry. I didn't think. I don't care about your excuses right now." Jake shouted, his frustration raw and palpable. The monitors blipped, responding to his rising heartbeat. Sarah felt herself shrink back, the room heavy with the weight of their unresolved conflict. She wanted to reach out to Jake, to remind him of their bond, but this moment wasn't about her. It was about the brothers who hadn't known how to bridge the chasm that had grown between them. "I was scared," David continued, his voice cracking. "I didn't know how to be the brother you needed. I ran. But I want to be here now. I need to be here now. Right now." Jake challenged, anger simmering just beneath the surface. "What about before? What about the times I needed you?" At that moment, the tension in the room felt like a live wire. It pulsed and throbbed, waiting for a spark. Sarah could see the struggle in Jake's eyes, the longing for the brotherly connection mixed with the pain of betrayal. As silence enveloped them, Tom finally stepped forward, grounding his sons with the weight of his own experiences. "Enough. This isn't about who has a right to be here or not. It's about Jake and his health. We're all on this journey together." Jake's gaze fell, frustration melting into uncertainty as he processed his father's words. David exhaled slowly, his eyes softening. "Please, Jake. Just let me be here for you now." In that fragile moment, the family stood at a crossroads, tangled in their shared history yet yearning for a way to choose healing over hurt. Sarah watched, feeling the gravity of the situation. "What does it even mean to start over?" Jake whispered, his voice barely audible. The question loomed in the air, as if everyone knew the implications ran deeper than just brotherhood. How could they face this new reality together? And just as Sarah pondered their next steps, she caught a glimpse of Emily's worried expression, sensing the chaos building within. "Maybe it means being honest about everything, as difficult as that is," Sarah suggested, her voice breaking the silence. It felt like a small encouragement, but it was a first step toward what was looking increasingly like a reckoning. With eyes on Jake, Sarah realized that their fragile connections were on the verge of something monumental. A storm was brewing, but what would be the storm's outcome? The door creaked open one more time, and every gaze turned to see a nurse step in, clipboard in hand. But in her expression, there was something more. Something that would change the course of this reunion forever. "What now?" Jake murmured, a hint of dread creeping back into his voice, and in that moment of anticipation, Sarah could hardly breathe, knowing that whatever announcement was coming would shatter their illusions of safety. Would they be ready to face whatever truth lay ahead? The nurse cleared her throat, and the tension in the room intensified. Everyone leaned in as though the air itself held secrets. "Jake," she started, her voice steady but kind, "I need to discuss your treatment options moving forward." Jake's eyes darted to his parents, then to David. A flicker of fear crossed his face. "What do you mean?" He managed to stammer, his voice barely above a whisper. The nurse glanced at the clipboard, her pen poised as if she hesitated too. "After reviewing your latest test results, we have to look at more aggressive options. There's a chance we could consider." She paused, casting a glance toward the family. Finally, she spoke directly to Jake. "We might need to discuss the possibility of chemotherapy." A heavy silence swallowed the room. The word echoed painfully, almost like a death knell. Sarah's heart sank. She felt as if she had been punched in the gut. Jake inhaled sharply, the color draining from his face. "Chemotherapy?" The question loomed larger than the man trapped in the hospital bed. Jake's fragility in that moment was stark and terrifying. "Are you sure? Isn't there another way?" David took a step closer, his fists now relaxed at his sides. "Hey, you're going to fight this, okay?" he said, attempting to reach out not as a stranger, but as a brother trying to hold on to whatever hope flickered. Jake's eyes blazed with a mix of heartbreak and anger. "You don't get to say that. You weren't there. You left me." His voice rose, pushing against the wall of pain that seemed to encase them all. The nurse watched quietly, her expression sympathetic. "Jake, this is the reality we have to face. We'll explore all options, but we need to be proactive." Claire stepped forward, snippets of helplessness wrinkled on her brow. "Can we have a moment, please?" she asked, her voice soft yet authoritative. The nurse nodded and slipped out, leaving an uneasy silence behind that. As soon as the door closed, the tense air crackled. "What do you want me to say?" Jake asked bitterly. He turned away, staring at the wall, the various machines humming around him, feeling almost like a whisper of impending doom. "I want you to say you'll fight," David urged, his voice low and urgent. "I know I've messed things up, but I'm here now, Jake. I want to help." "Help? By what? Being a ghost who shows up when it's convenient for you?" Jake shot back, facing David head-on, his pain spilling into anger. "Where were you when I needed you all those years? You think you can just walk back in and fix everything?" Sarah felt the weight of the moment. She wanted to intervene, to bridge the chasm between the brothers, but the rawness of their emotions bubbled too close to the surface. "Maybe it's not about fixing everything," Claire interjected gently. "Maybe it's about being here now." Yes, we need to talk about treatment. But first. She paused, struggling for the right words. We need to talk about the past. Fine, Jake said, voice cracking. Let us talk. What could be left to say? David opened his mouth, but the depth of what lay unsaid hung in the air like fog. Fighting back tears, Sarah wondered if this confrontation could finally lead to healing or if it would only deepen the wound still fresh between them. The door creaked open again, and the nurse peeked in, sensing the tension had shifted. I can give you all the time you need, but when you're ready, let us talk treatment details. Her eyes softened with understanding. As she stepped back, Jake fought against the tide of emotion that threatened to drown him. Would they find a way through this together, as a family? Or would the truth, once revealed, tear them apart even further? The room felt weighed down by the uncertainty of what lay ahead. And as Jake braced for what felt like an inevitable storm, an unexpected voice broke the silence. I'm not going anywhere this time, David said quietly, as if choosing his words carefully could somehow alter the past. What if my next move pulls us apart even more? Jake replied, staring through the void between them, heart heavy with fear. And as the family faced the unknown, an unsettling realization dawned upon them: all their journey was just beginning. Jake looked away, struggling to process David's words. The silence stretched longer before he let out a ragged sigh. It felt as if a dam was breaking within him, all the fear and anger crashing against his insides. Why now? He finally asked, voice trembling. Why come back when I'm at my lowest? It feels too late. David swallowed hard, his own emotions flickering just below the surface. I was scared, all right. Scared of what I had done, scared of what I would lose. But I'm here now. I won run again. Scared? Jake echoed bitterly. You think that was just about you? I was left to figure this nightmare out all by myself. Each word felt like a blade, loaded with hurt and frustration. He threw his head back against the pillow, feeling powerless against the storm of feelings welling inside him. Claire stepped forward, her voice softer. Jake, we all have our fears. She looked to David, then back at her son, desperation lacing her expression. But this isn't just about what happened in the past. This is about you now, and we have to focus on that. What's the point of talking about the past if it doesn't change anything? He snapped, but there was a quiver in his voice, exposing the pain he tried to hide. I can't stand the thought of more loss. Neither can I, David replied, taking a step closer. But if we can face this together, maybe there's some hope left for us. The sincerity hung in the air, a threadbare spark amidst the turmoil. Sarah glanced at Claire, wishing she'd have the right words to calm the storm. Jake, you have a choice. We can either be angry at each other or we can stand together. No one's saying it will be easy. But. She hesitated, searching for strength. But you don't have to fight this alone. Jake took a shuddering breath, his gaze shifting from David's earnest eyes to his mother's gentle face. In that moment, vulnerability crept into the corners of his heart like timid light. I'm tired of fighting, Mom. I don't know how to do this. I just want it to be over. Stepping closer, Claire reached for Jake's hand. No matter what, you're brave. You're allowed to feel weak sometimes. Just promise us you'll let us in, that you won't shut us out. He hesitated, the weight of her words sinking in. Tears stung his eyes as he opened his mouth, but nothing emerged. David cleared his throat. You don't have to do anything today. Let us just take this one day at a time. Okay. Slowly nodding, Jake felt the heaviness beginning to lift, even if just slightly. It was a fragile moment, a glimmer of shared resolve amidst the chaos. I want to be all right, Jake uttered, fear lacing his voice. All he had known was darkness lately, and now, facing the prospect of treatment felt like a mountain to climb. What if it was too much? David squeezed Jake's arm, trying to ground them both. We'll get through everything. Together. Jake's heart flickered, a fragile hope igniting. Do you promise? Always. Just then, the door swung open again, this time revealing a group of nurses, bringing in fresh supplies and a wheeled cart of medications. The heaviness of their moment lightened, but other questions loomed, questions about treatment, about life, about the bonds that were still frayed. The distraction was welcome, but as Jake watched the nurses shuffle in with their practiced ease, he felt the walls around him tighten again. Could he truly let them all in? And as he pondered the storm of emotions that still awaited him, the faint beep of the monitor built up with a steady rhythm. Something was changing, but would it be the change they all hoped for, or would more heartbreak follow? The uncertainty lingered. Their journey was far from over, and Jake wondered how much strength he had left to fight. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead, cutting through the haze of tension that had settled in Jake's hospital room. After a long day filled with painful revelations, the air felt charged with a kind of promise, however tentative it was. As the nurses wheeled in supplies, Jake couldn't shake the weight of the burdens he still carried. He looked around, his gaze shifting between his family and Sarah, whose presence felt both reassuring and daunting. After the nurses exited, leaving behind a lingering scent of antiseptic, Jake took a deep breath, savoring the silence. It was time to share everything that had been locked away inside him for too long. Okay, he said, his voice steady but low, drawing attention to himself. If we're doing this, let us really do it. His family exchanged looks, knowing this was the conversation they had been avoiding. The past had never been easy, but Jake felt a spark of courage. David, you were my brother. I needed you when things got hard. I don't know if you understand what it's like to fight alone. He paused, remembering dark nights filled with fear. Every day, I worried if I could handle more. If I could be strong enough to face the next challenge. And then when you left, I felt abandoned. David shifted, his expression pained but resolute. I know I messed up, Jake. I ran away from what I couldn't face. But I'm here now. Being here is good. But it doesn't erase the past, Jake said, fire flickering in his eyes. You got to come back now, when I'm at my lowest. But what did you expect? Did you think I'd just forget what you did? Just because you've shown up. The tension hung palpably as David took a step closer, reaching blindly for reconciliation. I was scared you would hate me forever. But I want to make it right. Just tell me what to do. I don't even know what that looks like. Jake replied, voice rising. Claire stepped in, her nurturing instinct kicking into high gear. Boys, boys. Let us not unravel again. Jake, you're allowed to feel hurt, and David's here to listen. Isn't that what we've all wanted? The silence felt electric. Everyone leaned in, like the room itself held its breath. Sarah glanced around, noticing the glaze of tears behind Claire's eyes and the firmness pulling David's mouth tight. She then turned to Jake. You can't do this alone, Jake. You have your family now. Let them in. You deserve support. Don't shut them out. Jake ran a hand over his face, the exhaustion pushing against his resolve. I'm just so tired of everything weighing on me. The treatments, the uncertainty. I'm not sure I even have what it takes to fight. The words cut deeply, and the response mustered courage from a well that felt nearly empty. You've been fighting hard for so long, Sarah interjected, her voice steady. But you don't have to carry that weight alone anymore. You don't have to fight every battle without the people who care most about you. His eyes flicked from Sarah to Emily. Could he trust her after so much time apart? But he saw her sincerity, the strength burning behind her own doubting eyes. Just then, Emily nodded, as if reading his thoughts. Sarah's right, she encouraged softly. Rebuilding relationships, letting people stand beside you is part of the healing. I know it's scary, and trusting again is hard, but that's what family does. Look at how we all came together for you in here. Love can still triumph. Jake bit his lip, internal struggles wrestling within him. But what if I mess up again? What if I can't be who everyone needs me to be? I don't want to let you all down. Jake, Claire interrupted gently, none of us expect you to be perfect. What we hope is that we can be here for each other despite the mess, to guide one another without judgment. A flicker of realization sparked within him. Maybe it was time to face both his fears and his family to show them who he really was beneath the wounds of the past. He took a steadying breath, letting their words wrap around him, filling up the empty spaces where shame and guilt had once lingered. Finally, he gathered enough courage and met David's gaze. Okay, let us get through this together. I can't promise I won't struggle, but I can promise to try. It felt like tossing a rope into turbulent waters, hopeful yet uncertain of the outcome. The air in the room lightened as relief washed over them, a gentle tide restoring what had been lost. David nodded slowly, tears brimming in his eyes. We'll figure it out one step at a time. I want to make this right, but I need you to guide me too. Jake felt a sense of liberation wash over him. Promise? Always, David replied, his soft voice tremulous with promise. In that moment, something shifted. It was as though the darkness that had shadowed Jake began to lift, making way for the first hint of dawn. The challenging road ahead loomed still. There would be treatments, struggles, and fears to confront. And yet, they stood together, tethered by hope, love, and the simple act of truly being there for one another. As they embraced, Sarah felt the walls of the room lift, their unison resonating like a heartbeat beating strong. The diner, the community, every group that had supported them came together to fill their lives with strength and solace. Jake's journey wasn't over, but with his family beside him, he was ready to face whatever lay ahead, and just outside, the sun broke through the clouds, painting the sky with vibrant hues, a beautiful reminder of the strength that comes with love, transformation born from pain, and a clear signal that brighter days were just around the corner. This journey of resilience had awakened the spirit of the diner, the beating heart of their community. A testament that love, when embraced, offers the ultimate lifeline amid life's harshest trials. Now, the ultimate choice lay in the hands of those watching. Would they embrace their own transformations? Would they open the door to nurturing connections, to reconciliation and support? And to all of you, your moments are waiting. Embrace them. Don't let fear steal your chance at love and healing. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories, leave a like now to feed the algorithm, comment your reactions and feelings about the ending, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.